Okay, so it's set up again. It's still Sunday. It's our second game today. First one certainly ended a bit quicker than both of us thought. Right, so it's Bretonnians Vs Ogres again. Actually, we didn't actually roll for it, but I assume we're going to play Battle Line. Kind of forgot about that, but yeah, we're going to play Battle Line again. We changed the scenery around a bit, just rolling randomly for it. There's no strange scenery because I find it a bit irritating. I'm sure one day we'll embrace it, but not just yet. So Bretonnians vs Ogres again, and I'll run through the Bretonnian list again. Okay, so we have 9 questing knights. We have 11 knights errant with the errantry banner, and my lord, who doesn't have heroic gain and blow. He's got another combination of stuff. We have, I think it's 12 knights of the realm. With the BSB, another paladin in there, and my prophetess is level 4 of beasts. We've got 3 Pegasus knights, 40 men at arms with level 2 of beasts. Then we've got 18 bowmen with defensive stakes and a trebuchet, and that's it. So roll for me spells, and I've pretty much got the same as I had last time because my level 4 rolled 4 3s. Allow me to pick all the spells I wanted. So I've got everything apart from Pan's Impenetrable Pelt and Flock of Doom. So, and that's it. So I'll hand it over to Si, see what he's got.
Okay, well, I've changed my army around a little bit. Ollie and I have been discussing some changes to the force in general and how ogres might best be suited. So I went away and beavered away in my room for 20 minutes on Army Builder and came up with this list, which is basically the same, although I've made it a little bit dirtier, I hope. So we'll start over here on my left. We have a Lone Saber Tusk. Then I have my Iron Blaster, a Stonehorn, and then I have a unit of 11 Iron Guts, led by my Butcher, who's here. You can see he is in the second rank, so I've taken full command. So hopefully that should afford him some protection for a bit. Then the big change to my army is I dropped the Horde, and I've gone for another unit of 11 Iron Guts, although they're being played by bulls here today. And that has my BSB in, and again he is in the second rank because I have a full command group. And then basically I have my unit of Mournfang over here towards the right, and right far towards the edge is my Saber Tusk. So that is the list. Basically I've dropped the big Horde and then taken a smaller unit of Iron Guts and beefed up the other unit and then spread my characters across. So hopefully the loss of one of the other units isn't going to hurt me quite as bad as losing the other two. And in theory they're going to hit a lot harder. Although in a different game, for example against Ollie's Orcs, it might mean a little bit less attacks unless I can get in both units. But I'm hoping the next game Ollie will want to play Orcs and Goblins. So I'll be able to test this out again and see what happens. So yeah, that is my force, and yeah, I'm presuming Ollie is going to take the time to pray.
Yeah, Vanguard, and then I'm going to pray.
Okay, so Ollie's going to do his Vanguard actions, and then we will see you at the end of Ogre's turn 1. Well, that was an interesting first turn. Everyone moved up. They will move forward, getting ready. Then we went to the magic phase, and yes, I rolled 9, 6 and 3. Ollie got 2 channels, so yeah, fairly even. So I thought, Grutzcool should give me the edge, and it did, kind of. So I tried to cast Spine Marrow on my other unit of Iron Guts with the BSB, and I miscast again on the first turn with the first spell. And yes, I was slightly less lucky this time, and I rolled a 4. So the template nicely happens to fit over 12 Iron Guts, when placed here. And so I thought, well, you know, the number of ones I rolled last time, I should be alright. Naturally, the dice decided that I'd had such a bad go this time that it would allow me to roll all 2 pluses. So with the wound I did with Grutskill, I managed to kill 4 iron guts. And to make matters worse, I rolled a 2 for the dimensional cascade, and my caster has been sucked into the warp, where probably he's being laughed at by Zinch himself for being so lame. Lolly and I have just sat and pissed ourselves for about 10 minutes because that's quite possibly the most unluckiest first turn I think I've ever had.
Yeah, well, he's dealt 17 wounds to 1 unit in the first turn. I've never had a go yet.
Yeah. Now, we're going to play on because I want a game and so does Ollie. But now the challenge is he has to do more than 17 wounds on a unit in 1 round of combat. Or he fails his secondary task. And I'll get to laugh at him for the rest of the night. So yeah, I've set quite a high benchmark there. So it's really, you know, we'll have to see what he's got. so yeah, but I got spine marrow off though, so yeah, it's not too bad. So yes, in the shooting phase, my cannon, I hit the unit Pegasus Knights. Unfortunately, Ollie made his ward save. And that was all the shooting there was. So yeah, rather eventful. Incredibly eventful, in fact. So we'll see whether the Bretonnians can come back from well this yeah. So we'll see you at the end of Bretonnians turn 1. Sorry.
Okay, end of rather pathetic Bretonnian turn 1. Only managed to do 2 wounds to him, and he's showing me up by having obviously done 17 wounds to himself before I even had a go. Right, so the Pegasus Knights just milled around. The peasants came out of the building. She popped a icon of Cornelis to give them the ward save as the knights, and she just left the unit. These guys just stayed where they were. Magic phase, got a fair few dice, failed to cast beefed up Amber Spear on the Iron Guts, so my level 4 couldn't cast anymore. And then she attempted to cast Wisdom's Wild Form on the Knights just for the sake of it, and so I dispelled it even without its level 4. So, and then in the shooting phase, the peasants managed to do 2 wounds to an Iron Gut, which was pretty spectacular. And the Trebuchet managed to kill a Mournfang, and that was it. So 1 Mournfang dead, and 2 wounds on an Iron Gut. That's not too bad. Not quite as good as Size Turn, but as he's playing the ogres, it's hard to give him too much kudos for it. Okay, so that's the end of Bretonnians turn 1.
Once a Skaven player, always a Skaven player. Okay, end of Ogres turn 2, nice and rapid. Everyone moved up again. Already I'm quite liking the manoeuvrability, the smaller footprint of this army, as I can switch directions far more rapidly than I have been able to before. So everyone's moved up, kind of going in a sort of semicircle. There's Lone Sabertusk is wafting his backside at the Knights Errant in a bit of a redirection. Basically over here we've got another Sabertusk. Come round, try and chew on some artillery if you can. Next turn. And then basically, as there was no magic phase, we skipped straight to the shooting. As you can see by this facing around here, I rolled the typical misfire, and yeah, it didn't blow up this time, which was quite nice, but unfortunately the mechanism is fouled, so it's essentially a chariot now for a turn. So yeah, that was a very rapid turn, well, turn 2, so now it's on to Bretonnians turn 2. Okay, it's the end of Bretonnians turn 2, and I elected to charge with all 3 knight units. The Questing Knights failed to get into the Mournfang.
the General's unit managed to kill the Saber Tusk and overrun. And then the Knight of the Realm unit charged into his big Iron Gut unit with his BSB in. The Peg Knights moved up here to redirect the other Iron Guts. The Peasants moved up to redirect the Stonehorn. And the Peasants moved into the building. Then in the magic phase, because Sai's obviously lost his general, he didn't have much in the way of magic defence. So I managed to get the Savage Beast of Horus onto my Paladin with the All Strike's first sword. So he had it was strength 7 with 6 attacks, rerolling to hit, which is pretty sweet. Then I cast the Castlevania here on his gut unit, so I got -1 to hit. And then I cast something out. Did I cast another spell?
You tried.
Yeah, Wisdom's Wildfall, but Sai dispelled it. Yeah. And then in the shooting phase, my Bowman managed to kill the Saber Tusk. My Trebuchet managed to kill another Mournfang and do wound to another one, which was some precision shooting for once. And then in the close combat phase, I managed to kill the Saber Tusk. And then my big bus of characters just blew through his Iron Guts in a rather impressive display of hits. I issued a challenge with the BSB. He accepted with his champion. Managed to do a wound to his champion, and then his champion failed to wound me. My All Strike's first guy did 4 wounds by himself, and then the rest of my unit did, I think, 6 wounds, and then even the horses did a couple of wounds. So I won the combat by a lot, and obviously he's not stubborn because he didn't have Spine Marrow anymore, and Crown of Command was on the general. And he failed his break test because he needed double 1s, and then I overrun him. So
it should be noted, however, that he still failed to do more wounds than I managed to do.
Yes, yeah. Sai's not impressed because I didn't do 17 wounds. I only did like 13. So yeah,
they're crap. Even though they utterly wiped my unit off the board, they're crap.
So I'm winning, but I still get berated because I can't massacre him as badly as he can. So it's looking pretty good for the Bretonnians. I think Sly's willing to slug it out a bit longer. So we'll see what happens in Sai's next turn. It would be his turn 3.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Okay, end of Ogre's turn 3. The Iron Blaster got up and basically cleaned his barrel out, moved up slightly, and everyone else just charged in. Basically, I charged the Mournfang and the Iron Guts at the Peg Knights, and then my Stonehorn went into the Peasants. We did the Peg Knight combat first, and I wiped them out. Overrun straight into there, and what I thought would be a glorious slaughter wasn't quite as glorious because Ollie made a ridiculous number of 5-up ward saves. I mean a ridiculous number. Yeah, so that kind of everything but the kitchen sink of that unit, and yeah, if that had been against the Knights, there wouldn't have been anything left of the Knights. But rolling for Peasants, man, they're unbreakable. And they were like perfectly within 8 inches of the rear of this Knight unit, so they had just enough leadership to hold fast, and which they did. And unfortunately, yes, I'm still stuck. So yeah, we'll just have to see sort of what happens at the end of Bretonnians turn 3.
Okay, in a rather amusing turn 3, my Knight unit's just reformed. My Trebuchet and Archer stayed where they were, and I charged my level 2 into the side of his Mournfang, which is a small hint to why. Then in the magic phase, I tend to cast the Transformation of Kadon. I got 12 dice, so I threw 6 at it, got it off. Turned into a mountain chimera, which is pretty sweet. Actually got a chimera model, which is quite nice. Nice to actually get to use it. And then in the shooting phase, my Trebuchet missed the Iron Blaster. My Peasant shot at it, but failed to wound it. And then in close combat, the Peasants and the mountain chimera went to town on the Mournfang, killed them. Unfortunately, Si then went to town on the peasants and killed quite a few of them, so I actually lost the combat. Unfortunately, the Mountain Chimera has only got a leadership of 6 and isn't stubborn or anything. So, yeah, although I killed all the Mournfang, I didn't actually put any wounds on the Stonehorn or the Iron Guts. So I lost the combat by some margin and started to run away. So that's what that's doing. So it hasn't taken any wounds or anything, and it did do a ridiculous amount of wounds to the Mournfang, but it still lost combat. So, and that's what we're looking at the end of turn 3. So Si's still looking for some points, and there they go. Got a nice silhouette there as well. Yeah, so that's the end of Bretonnian turn 3.
Okay. Of another very short ogre turn. This is turn 4. Basically, I chased off the Mountain Chimera off the board, sent it fleeing. The Stonehorn just came back around, ready to attack. And then, yeah, basically this just moved forward and cannonballed, hit the Paladin, but thankfully a brave knight pushed him out of the way and copped it instead. So yeah, Ollie passes his war saves all day long on peasants. When it comes to knights, he's not quite so lucky. However, this game, unfortunately, I think that's probably only going to be the only knight casualty coming up. But we'll see if I can't score a few more in other places. But yeah, it's now Bretonnians turn 4. And yeah, we'll see what happens.
Okay, so end of Bretonnians turn 4, and wow, there's nothing left. It was a tabling, unfortunately, for Si. So in the movement phase, everything charged. These guys charged into the Stonehorn, and both of these units charged into the Iron Guts. The magic phase, I managed to get off. What did I get off? The Savage Beast of Horus, because I only rolled double 1 for the magic phase, onto my Ulstrike's first Paladin. The shooting phase, the Trebuchet managed to one-shot the Iron Blaster. Then in close combat, both these units ripped into the Iron Guts. The horses actually accounted for about 4 wounds. Then the rest of the guys, the general challenged the champion, did a couple of wounds to him. The champion unfortunately failed to wound the general. And then between the questing knights and the errant, I managed to kill the rest of the Iron Guts. And then the champion, who only had 1 wound left, failed his break test and was overrun. Unfortunately, I didn't overrun into the Stonehorn, but as it turns out, it didn't matter because I, with the Savage Beast of Horus Paladin, had 6 attacks, hit with I think 5 of them, yeah, and then wounded with all of them. So I actually did 5 wounds to it. And then my BSB attacked and actually did a further wound, and that was it. So I managed to table him, unfortunately. I think I was plagued with bad luck right from the start. But I do think, like, I had some pretty good moves there. I think there was one point there where I was redirecting a fair number of his units, and then I obviously did pretty well wiping out his Iron Gut unit. And then pretty much after that unit was dead, it was kind of just a death knell after that. So yeah, it was a really good game. Obviously the Knights survived the game for once, which was nice. Si got his revenge on the peasants, which is all that matters to him. The Trebuchet did pretty well, consistently blowing things up. Killed 2 Mournfang and an Iron Blaster. The archers killed that Saber Tusk, so they did alright. This unit was grey. That's obviously my main unit. It's obviously 12 Knights, 2 Paladins with rerollable 2 up armour saves, and the stubborn Prophetess with the Lord Beast, which is awesome. I really like the Lord Beast, particularly with the synergy between the Ulstrike's first sword on the Paladin. He was really dishing it out. And of course, like, if she cost the big one, the BSB would get that as well. So these guys were, well, they did alright. They're not as good as the last game, where they actually won the game by themselves just because of the Lord. Question Knights, jury's out, but they are really good models, so I'd still use them. The peasants did really well. They held him up for a turn, which was awesome considering what he charged into me. The level 2 was awesome, turning into a mountain chimera. She didn't do that well, just because peasants die quicker, and so you handed him a lot of combat res. But she did kill like 2 Mornfang without breaking a sweat. And for 130 points, why not? So I would definitely do that again.
It was. I'd say that was a very, very good move to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
She did 7 wounds, and the Mornfang only had 5 wounds left, so she utterly annihilated them.
Yeah, that was brutal, wasn't it?
Which obviously saved the peasants from, it saved the peasants from more wounds essentially. But in a protracted combat, that's the kind of decisions that you've got to make, and those are the kind of things that can swing it.
Yeah.
Because that certainly had the peasants sort of had the chance to hold, had they still been steadfast. That just would have helped me up. And
yeah, I was like literally 1 wound away, wasn't I, from actually being steadfast with the peasants.
Yeah, that's it. If you'd done that, then you would have easily have managed to marshal your forces without losing practically anything.
Yeah. Unfortunately, she would have still run away, actually, wouldn't she? 'Cause she would only like lose. Well, I don't know. Actually, I don't know.
Well, she could have tried to rally,
but she certainly would have had a chance to rally. Yeah. So the peasants did really well. I think overall in the game, I would say would pick a man of the match, but I'm actually going to go for a Law of the match. I think Law of Beast is really good because the Curse of Anra here obviously really helped in that combat against the Iron Guts, or actually wiped them out just because they had the minuses to hit. Savageries of Horos played a huge part on that Paladin. The Transformation of Kadon, which is awesome. And I think I had a Wisson's Wild Form on the Peasants at one point as well. So I'm actually going to go for Law of the Beast as a man of the match, just because it's really good. So I was a bit reluctant to ditch Law of Life for that, but I actually think it's quite good, as long as you've got a big enough unit so you don't need to worry about survivability so much. Obviously this unit was bigger than last time, just so it could take a few hits and still be effective. So yeah, Law of Beast is really good. I'm certainly going to use it again, I think. And as far as 6 spells goes, I think Transformation of Kadon is pretty balanced compared to like Purple Sun and that, because it really is just it's 1 combat's worth, because your opponent's obviously going to dispel it. So I'd definitely rate it over the other 6 spells, just even in terms of friendly games at least, because I do think that Purple Sun and those kind of like Dwellers Below and that are a bit ridiculous. So yeah, so Law of the Beast, man of the match for me. Turkey of the match, I haven't really got one actually. Maybe these archers didn't do a lot, but that was just because they didn't need to. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So it was a good game. Certainly enjoyed winning with Bretonnians for a change. Obviously the first game was just fluke, but I think this game was more down to strategy. Although the key part of my strategy was side blowing himself up in the first turn, which is becoming quite a reliable strategy these days. So Sai gave me a leg up, and then I took advantage and sorted him out. So I'll hand you over to Sai, see what he thinks of the game.
Yeah. It always helps. I think Law of Beasts was particularly useful in this game for Ollie, because by this point I had no magical defences, so I could only reliably or semi-reliably dispel 1 spell a turn. So it then became a case of like, which is the one I considered dispelling. No magic defences hurt me bad, and certainly without the buffs I really, really suffered.
Yeah, because I think that's one of the things with like the laws, is that Law of Life, once you get rid of Flesh to Stone, the rest of the spells are pretty bit iffy. So that's the one you're going to hold your dice for. But Law of Beast has several really good spells. So even if you dispel 1, I'm still going to get 1 or 2 really good ones on.
That's it. It's kind of one of those laws where everything there does something useful. Yeah. I mean, Law of the Maw, I would say probably 5 of the 7 spells are great. Obviously, the magic missile is a bit crap, and the Brain Gobbler is a. I don't know what Vertok was thinking when he wrote that. Maybe he disappeared out of the room when Jervis Johnson stuck it in, but who knows? I mean, why having something force panic test in that kind of, I don't know, but we're not talking about the spells. I think, yeah, I got incredibly unlucky. I mean, that was in 2 games, 2 miscasts on my first spell with 3 dice each.
On the same day.
Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, this, I seem to say it a lot, but this really is my worst luck I've ever experienced. I mean, you know, I kind of, I really, the part of me really just wanted to kind of just bugger off and sit in my room and play natural selection and have the ump for the rest of the night. But you know, we'd already one game had gone tits up, and I must admit, Ollie and I did have a damn good laugh about it, and it still is. I mean, when you consider it, it still is funny now. I mean, I think the most annoying part was the peasants just passing ridiculous numbers of ward saves, which annoyed me. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's just how it is. But yeah, I like. I must admit, I really like how the army is in terms of the 2 smaller units of Iron Guts. I need to work a little more on the army though. One thing Ollie and I did actually bandy about before we started this game was the use of perhaps man-eaters. Because it's like obviously a smaller unit of man-eaters is going to be about as expensive as a sort of the slightly bigger units of Iron Guts that I've got. So I can kind of do a fairly good trade, and they hit hard, and they're automatically stubborn, which means Ollie's pretty much got to try and grind them down, and especially if I can keep them next to the BSB or have the BSB in the unit, I really can sort of keep them there for quite some time. And also, if I could hunt the points out from somewhere, try and take Golfag Man-Eater, but I think he's maybe a little expensive in 2,400. He'd probably be something I'd take in a 3,000 point game. But yeah, I mean, what I had did very well in considering. I mean, like Ollie says, I was on the back foot, but yeah, he played really nicely. I must admit, I kind of didn't think he was going to make his charges. That's the first time I've ever completed all my charges. Yeah, I kind of I wanted. I mean, I'd sort of moved it with the intention. I thought, well, what I had to do was kind of manoeuvre him in such a position that I could he could fail a charge, and allow me to actually get in there and actually assault him, because ogres really need the charge. I'm certainly unbuffed. I need to get the impact hits, and I need to try and do as much damage as possible. Yeah, I was just unable to do it, and the unit just Ollie's night bus just performed brilliantly. Well, it never ceases to amaze me that while the riders may manage to fluff their attacks, the horses always it's like they just sit looking at each other, shaking their heads, and have to show the riders how it's done. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where the wounds come from. The wounds happened, and yeah, it sort of sorted me out. And yeah, as Ollie says, there was a particularly brilliant piece of manoeuvring with the Pegasus Knights, which, well, yeah, it prevented basically his unit from getting the smackdown laid upon it.
Obviously, if there's Stonehorn and those Iron Guts went to the flank of my night bus, would have been over. Yeah, because there would have been Mornfang, there would have been everything in my army. That was basically the way I looked at it, because the way he first put his peasants, I was thinking, yes, I might just be able to pull this back. But yeah, fortunately, Ollie's a bit cannier than that, and yeah, he realised where the shit was going to have to go down, and yeah, quite wisely managed to manoeuvre into position. It was nice to kill the Pegasus Knights and wipe out the peasants for a bit of revenge,
but I was really disappointed with my shooting because the plan with the Iron Blaster was that I wanted to try and reduce the Pegasus Knights in number enough that I could either 2 turns of panic tests and hope for a failure, and then being so far from the BSB they would have buggered off, or at the very least have reduced their number to sort of only one guy, which limits their sort of tries to limit the effectiveness of how they can get for the redirection. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be. But yeah, it was nicely used. I think they really did well, and they hampered me quite a lot. But yeah, it really hurt not to have any magic. Really painful. I mean, even I was sitting there thinking, I wish I kind of even had the fire belly, because even a level 2 would have had something to throw. I would have had a channel and
it's a bit defensive, wasn't it?
Yeah.
To
but the trouble is with ogres is you've always got to weigh those options up, because a fire belly that's like 3 iron guts. That's 9 potential wounds a turn. So it's kind of weighing that up, and admittedly, not doing. He can put out the damage, and certainly his breath weapon would have been very useful. But I don't know. I have to go back to the drawing board and tweak the list a little. I've got some ideas, but I rather like it because I was able, even after suffering such a monumental savaging, I was still able to manoeuvre the guys about, and there was still room to squeeze stuff by, which was quite pleasing. Something that my previous army has lacked. So I quite like that direction, and like I say, I might be thinking of a few other units to take. I know people have mentioned taking gorges and sort of things like that. Certainly against the dwarves. I don't know whether they'd be entirely useful in this game, but then again, a nice unit of scouting man-eaters, would be pretty good. Having them appear from nowhere and laying a smackdown would be pretty sweet. So yeah, there's lots to think about. Lots of directions my army can take. As should be the way with an army. It shouldn't just be one mono build that becomes boring quite quickly. So yeah, it was pretty cool. It was disappointing to have that kind of bad luck, but it was quite funny. It cheered me up. It was quite hilarious. I think Ollie and I both had a damn good chuckle over that. So I'd love to just go to a tournament and just see the look, hoping that people would just quit because they couldn't believe how unlucky I was, or just to prove that. Yeah. But yeah, that was pretty spectacular. I like Ollie's. I'm starting to like the combos that Ollie's got going there. The character heavy style. I mean, usually people kind of poo-poo masses of characters in armies. I think just simply because they're too expensive for what they do. But I think in Bretonnians, it really does work because at 3 wide, you get maximum amount of punishment. Yeah, which is just pretty nice, and yeah, it's hard when in the last game, not having any unit champion, getting challenged out, and you've either got to face. Well, Ollie's battery on his phone is unfortunately dying, so I'll round it off there and just say it was a funny game. I was a bit gutted to lose. I think man of the match. Okay, we have a charger now. So yes. Yeah, I think my army did all right considering sort of what happened to it.
Yeah, I think it's a case of getting used to it, and obviously you started off it was a bad start anyway, so you can't really glean much from this game in terms of the effectiveness of your army. It certainly seems like a better army, just because that and the Iron Guts has a lot of punch.
Yeah, and I like its manoeuvrability. So I'll be interested to try it against Orcs and Goblins.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so we'll have to get some Orc and Goblin action in, and sort of see what happens there. But it was interesting. I think probably man of the match for me has to be the Iron Gut unit, who managed to see off the Mountain Chimera / Enchantress off the board, which was about as good as it got. Although the Stonehorn didn't do too bad either. He just fell to.
Yeah, I mean that Iron Gut unit survived your Slaughtermaster.
Yeah.
Survived the Mountain Chimera and some peasants.
Yeah. So it didn't do too
It
bad.
was only like when half my army charged it that it finally died.
Yeah.
And even then, like, your champion held on to the last second. So
Yeah.
he'd seen some bad stuff that time.
Yeah. So it was pretty brutal. So yeah, the ogres are going to have to give up trying to nom on canned food for the time being, and go back to some not quite so tasty greenskins. But yeah, it was an interesting game, funny. I did crack up as to what happened, but that was pretty epic bad luck. So if anyone's got any suggestions as to how to improve my luck, stick them in the comments box, because I need it. Voodoo magic, whatever, on the game. Or I might just burn all these dice and force him to use mine. Oh, hold on a minute. We tried that last week.
Yeah.
Crap.
Yes.
Yes. We'll leave it there. And it'll be onwards to next week. So I'm going to have a fill with my list. And Ollie probably will as well, because he loves dicking about with lists as well. So, we will see you next time.